Hello, this is Eduardo Encina here with my buddy cop Rick Stroud. We're the Bucs beat writers for the Tampa Bay Times and TampaBay.com. We're coming to you, Rick. What is it? Quarter after midnight, early Saturday morning, wrapping up day 2 of the NFL draft. And buddy cop, we have a couple of new Bucs in the stable. Obviously, probably a little bit of a surprise at how where they were picked a little bit. Obviously, everyone thought they were going to take a running back in the second round. Instead, they took safety Antoine Winfield Jr. from Minnesota in that second round. And then they took the running back in the third round, Keyshawn Vaughn from Vanderbilt. So first off, Rick, let's talk about Winfield. You were on the conference call with him earlier and learned a lot about him. Obviously, familiar name, familiar guy. Guy who's a little bit undersized, but's always kind of played a lot bigger.
Yeah, he has. And going back to just the way this thing unfolded, I did think they were going to get a running back in the second round, and there was a couple on there, right? J.K. Dobbins was one of those guys that was still available. But, you started to see some safeties coming off, and we know that safety is a need position. But I think the chance to get Antoine Winfield, who's just a complete, baller, he's a playmaker. I mean, Jason Light didn't want to compare him to anybody, and then he did. Buda Baker and Tyrell Matthew, right, the Honey Badger. But his versatility is in that sort of range, right? He can play in the box. He can play free. He can play strong. He can blitz. He's a great tackler. But more than that, he's a dynamic leader. I mean, if you talk to P.J. Fleck, we had a chance to interview him when they were here at the Outback Bowl. I mean, what he did for Minnesota as one of their captains was unbelievable. That program hadn't won much in 150 years, and they were undefeated. Remember, they played Penn State, and he had 2 interceptions in the first half of that game, really won the game for him. And, when he's been healthy, he's had some injury problems, and that scares you, right, with a guy that's 5'9", playing in a big man's game. You wonder about that. But when he's healthy, he's just like his old man. I mean, his dad played 14 years in the NFL. Had like 27 career interceptions, played for 3 different teams, but mostly we remember him with the Vikings. And, from the time the kid was 5 years old, he was out there doing footwork drills. So I think he's a really good player. And, we can debate the order of, safety, running back, safety, but I just think that there weren't as many safeties as there were running backs. And really, to be honest with you, I mean, I thought that, I didn't know much about the Vaughn kid because I don't watch Vanderbilt football. I watch the SEC, but usually when Vanderbilt's playing, it's on Jefferson Pilot at noon. You don't really get to see him much. So I just, but this is a guy that transferred from Illinois, and you know a lot about him. But I think he's going to be a pretty good piece for them, really.
Yeah, and just going back to Winfield for a second, November 11th, 2001, Antoine Winfield Sr. intercepted Tom Brady, a 21-11 win by the Patriots in Foxborough. And now his son is going to be Tom Brady's teammate with the Bucs. So that's might be one of the most interesting nuggets of today, no matter across the draft of the father-son connection and how many years Tom Brady's played.
Yeah, it's a reminder of how old Tom Brady is. I mean, he's NFL is 20 or 21, right? So virtually none of these guys were more than a year old when he started his NFL career. It's just unbelievable.
And, Winfield, while you were on the call, I was checking out some of his film. And, it's hard to look at him when he's making plays and see that this guy's 5'9". He just plays a lot bigger than it. He hits hard. He always has this knack for the ball. They bring him in on safety blitzes. They play him close to the line. He's not afraid to hit, and he's not afraid of contact. And he's always seems to be around the ball on that game film. And, going back to Keyshawn Vaughn, I mean, this is a guy, like you said, not many people mentioned him when we were talking about the really good, 3-down pass-catching running backs. At the Combine, he was asked about, who he kind of compared himself to, and he compared himself to Alvin Kamara. And obviously that's a big comp there. But when you look at the size and you look at some of the numbers that he put up at Vanderbilt, they're pretty comparable to what Vaughn did that Kamara did at Tennessee. So, and also kind of a little bit under the radar there too. So he played in the SEC. He played against top-level competition every week. And, the big thing with him, I think, is that, over the past couple years, you mentioned he started out at Illinois. He transferred to to Vanderbilt. He's from Nashville, so he came home to play at home, and he really kind of developed into a really good pass catcher. And obviously, we know how much this team is building around Brady, and in a lot of ways, they're building around giving him the safety valves, giving him protection. Whether that's the offensive tackle, whether it's a running back that he can rely on as a pass catcher, whether it's a receiver, and that's really what they did with this pick with Vaughn. Jason Light was like, I was a little surprised about that he was still on the board, sitting there middle of the third round, that they were happy to get him. And this is after, he passed on a couple guys, like you said, Dobbins and Akers, who he had the opportunity to get in the second round. So, and talking to Vaughn, it was kind of funny listening to this guy talk because, I asked him, I was like, listen, you've mentioned Tom a couple times already in this interview. And, how excited are you for this? And he's like, he couldn't even take the smile off of his face just because he knows that he has the ability or the opportunity to be a really big part of that offense. Was it 74 passes a year on average that running backs got from Tom Brady over his 19-year career with the Patriots? So, this guy knows that he can be a big part of it. He calls himself a home run threat, whether it's as a running back or as a receiver. And you really saw that in his film. He's a guy who runs strong, runs big. He talks about the little things, about the pass blocking that he's going to have to do on third down to make sure that he is a three down back. And he's lined up along the line in the slot, outside, stuff like that. That helps too, to be able to do some of that stuff. I think now it's a situation where you bring in him, you have Ronald Jones, and Jason Light said you can never have too many of these kind of guys. And but definitely, Vaughn comes to them with a resume of a guy who can catch balls out of the backfield, which is really important.
Yeah, and we'll see. I mean, it's different when you try to split guys out. Pass protection's key. He's got a learning curve there, but we've seen the Patriots do this every year, right? Like Sony Michel was just one of the guys, right, in Georgia, and one of the top receivers. And in the last 5 years, Tom has completed over 100 balls to running backs. But they do have a lot of tight ends. You can do it different ways. And look, they had to create competition. Let's see, right, in the future. We'll remember J.K. Dobbins being there. We'll remember Cam Akers being there. It was unfortunate that, the Colts traded back up into the draft. I thought they had a great day, on the second day of the draft because they get Michael Pittman with the second round pick they had, the receiver from USC, and then they move back up in the first round ahead of the Bucs, and they take Jonathan Taylor. So, those are productive guys. So we'll see how it works out. But they get the running back, they get a safety, they fill two good needs.
And obviously, this was important. We asked Jason about this too. It was important to address these two needs in these rounds because they did trade away both of those fourth round picks. They're not going to have another pick till I think 166 in round 5 tomorrow. So on that, we'll be back here tomorrow. Day 3, we're going to end it up rounds 4 through 7 of the NFL draft. We're going to take a little nap in the meantime. For my buddy cop Rick Stroud, I'm Eduardo Encina for the Tampa Bay Times and TampaBay.com.